Introduction to HACCP and Legislation. Introduction. This module will introduce to the primary regulations around safety and the main concepts in safety management systems. Understanding where food safety and HACCP sit in the context of legislation is important as it encourages food handlers to abide by the regulations and helps to add meaning to the repeated actions required in food handling, such as taking temperatures and cleaning rotas. Areas we will cover. What is HACCP? Definition of key terms. What the law says. What this means for your business. Key pieces of legislation. Enforcement of legislation. 7 Principles of HACCP. Why food safety is important. The key concepts of food safety management systems. Government resources. Summary. Best. What is HACCP? HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point System. In brief, this is an internationally recognized food safety management system that identifies critical control points, CCPs, during food preparation and production that are critical to food safety, and implements control to ensure food is safe for consumption. Hazards can be anything microbiological, chemical or physical, that pose a threat to the production of safe food. In simple terms, it involves identifying what could go wrong in a food system and planning how to prevent it. HACCP is a proactive approach to food safety that seeks to identify and eradicate hazards before they occur. All staff must be aware of how to practice safe food hygiene so as to meet with the standards of HACCP. If you are running a food business, you are legally required to implement a safety management system based on the principles of hazard analysis and critical control point, HACCP. This course will inform you of the safety controls that food handlers should implement in regards to HACCP so that they safely produce and serve food. Why do we need HACCP? History. The system was developed in the 1960s for US space astronauts to stop them from becoming ill. Since 2006 in the UK, food businesses are legally required to produce and maintain an FSMS based on HACCP principles. Failure to control hazards can be lethal to consumers and catastrophic for business reputation. Consequences of not controlling food safety. Bad publicity both in the press and on customer review sites. Illness and fatalities. Insurance claims and legal action. Product recall. Loss of profits and business closure. Loss of customer trust in your brand. HACCP involves everyone in the business and allows you to evidence your FSMS to inspectors and improve customer confidence. Case study, Pret Manger. In 2018, the sandwich chain Pret Manger was in the news after a coroner's inquest into the death of a customer deemed their food labeling to be inadequate. 15-year-old Natasha Ednan Leperouse tragically died of anaphylactic shock brought on by an allergic reaction to a sandwich she had purchased from the chain. The teenager bought the olive tapenade and artichoke French bread sandwich from a branch of the international Pret Manger fast food chain at Heathrow Airport, before boarding a flight on July 2016. The coroner, Mr. Sean Cummings, said the sandwich contained sesame, a product to which she was severely allergic. There was no specific allergen information on the baguette packaging, or the food display cabinet, and Natasha was reassured by that, he ruled. Another of Pret's customers died having eaten a sandwich labeled as dairy-free, when in fact it contained a dairy yogurt. The company has blamed its supplier, Polio, a manufacturer of dairy-free coconut milk yogurt, and they have pursued legal action. Polio strongly denies the claims. Under the regulations at the time of the incidents, Pret Manger were not breaking any law, as foods packaged by a retailer on site before sale do not require a specific allergen label attached to them. Takeaways and restaurants are only required to let customers know if any of the 14 most common dangerous allergens, including peanuts, eggs and milk, are ingredients in their food. However, freshly made, non-prepackaged food does not have to be individually labeled, according to the UK's Food Regulations 2014. These cases sharply underscore the critical importance of effective food safety management systems. Key terms. Throughout the course, we use key terms that it will be useful for you to be familiar with when discussing food safety. Food safety. Food safety refers to the proper handling, preparation, cooking and storage of food in order to safeguard it anything that could cause harm to the consumer. Food safety hazard. A food safety hazard is something that is potentially a danger to the safety of the food. Contamination. Contamination is the presence of anything, be it biological, physical, chemical or allergenic, in food that could cause harm. Cross-contamination. This is the process where harmful bacteria is unintentionally transferred from surfaces, such as other foodstuffs, utensils, worktops or the food handler, onto ready-to-eat food or fresh produce. Having been contaminated, the foodstuff now poses a greater risk of causing illness. Food poisoning. Food poisoning occurs when someone eats food that has been contaminated with harmful bacteria or microorganisms. The illness usually occurs within hours of consuming contaminated food. Typical symptoms include abdominal pain, diarrhea, vomiting and nausea. Foodborne disease is any illness resulting from the consumption of food contaminated by the presence of microorganisms such as pathogenic bacteria, viruses, or parasites, as well as toxins. The microorganisms use the food as a vehicle to transport to the consumer where they multiply and cause illness that lasts longer than food poisoning bacteria. Food safety management system. If you are running a food business, you are legally required to have an approved, written food safety management system in place. An FSMS is a systematic approach to controlling food safety hazards within the food business in order to ensure that food is safe to eat. Critical control point. A specific point, procedure, or step in food manufacturing at which steps can be taken to reduce, eliminate, or prevent the possibility of a food safety hazard. Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point, HACCP. HACCP is a systematic, preventive approach to food safety from biological, chemical, and physical hazards. It focuses on food handlers and business owners to consider potential hazards and design measures to reduce these risks to a safe level. What the law says. EU food hygiene legislation was introduced in the UK in January 2006, Regulation EC 852/2004, and requires that all food businesses, catering and retail, have a documented food safety management system based on HACCP principles. The law requires that all food handlers must be supervised, instructed and trained in food hygiene matters to a level that is appropriate to the work they do. Those responsible for the business's food safety management procedures, which should be based on the principles of HACCP, hazard analysis and critical control point, must have received adequate training to enable them to do this. A food safety management system, HACCP, must be implemented, and records kept demonstrating compliance with the legal regulations. Businesses must identify steps critical to food safety and ensure adequate procedures are identified, implemented, maintained and reviewed using HACCP principles. What does this mean for my business? There is no legal requirement to attend a formal training course or to obtain a qualification, but it is arguably the most effective way of ensuring staff are trained in all the relevant areas of food safety. It will allow for everyone involved in food handling and preparation to evidence their knowledge to inspectors and the courts, should they ever be required to do so. On successful completion of this course, you will be issued with a certificate which you can use to demonstrate that you have received the appropriate training. Record keeping is an important aspect of food safety and HACCP system, and we shall return to it later in the course. Staff supervision is a significant part of a food business owner's legal requirements. Even when staff have received formal training, They may not always consistently adhere to procedures, so unsafe practices will need to be identified and corrected by a supervisor before any food they have prepared is eaten or sold. The law requires that anyone running a food business to ensure that their food handlers are given adequate training. Our training will help you improve food safety in your business, provide assurance to your customers, protect you from expensive legal action or compensation claims. Food safety officers can test food handlers' knowledge with on-the-spot questions during inspections. Having competent, qualified staff can facilitate improvements to your business's food hygiene rating, enhancing your reputation as a professional and reputable company. A low safety rating has the opposite effect and can ruin a business's reputation and serve to drive customers away. It should also be noted that an investment in training can improve staff morale and reduce turnover, which in the long run, saves money and time. What happens if I don't have a documented system in place? As part of routine inspections, enforcement officers will check that the business has an appropriate HACCP-based food safety management system. If a system has not been implemented or is not appropriate, then the business is not complying with the legal requirements of food law. Non-compliance may result in formal action being taken and you may be issued with a hygiene improvement notice depending on the circumstances of your business. Key pieces of legislation. The most important food safety regulations in your role. The Food Safety Act 1990. General Food Law Regulation EC 178/2002. Food Hygiene HACCP Regulations Act of 2006. Food Hygiene Information for Consumers Regulation 1169. The Food Safety and Hygiene, England, Regulations 2013. The Food Law Code of Practice, 2015. The majority of food safety law in the United Kingdom comes from the European Union in the form of regulations. These regulations have been supported by national legislation covering all nations with the UK. The European and UK legislation covers a spectrum of hygiene standards, including the following: food handlers and their training, food premises and equipment, food safety and food safety management, temperature control. It should be noted that ignorance of food safety legislation is not a defense against prosecution. It is imperative, therefore, that all food handlers are familiar with their legal obligations and understand how the law affects them and the business in which they work. We shall now explore some of the legislation that you must abide by as a food handler. If you do not comply with these laws, you may be liable for prosecution, which we will look at more closely further on in the module. The European Union Regulation, EC, number 852/2004 on the hygiene of foodstuffs is in place to control the hygiene standards of food premises, food equipment, food handlers and their training needs. This regulation also governs the registration of the food business, implementation of a suitable food safety management system, HACCP. You should also be familiar with the following legislation which is specific to the UK. The Food Safety and Hygiene, England, Regulations 2013. Food Hygiene, Scotland, Regulations 2006. These are both largely concerned with the controlling food temperature, food safety legislation enforcement. The Food Safety Act 1990. Many food standards are covered in the legislation, and it makes it a legal offense to produce food that is a danger to health, sell food that fails to meet food safety standards, sell food which is not of nature, substance or quality expected by the consumer. Enforcement of food safety legislation. The following information helps to underscore the importance of effectively implementing and adhering to the principles of HACCP. The Food Standards Agency and Food Standards Scotland, along with the individual local authorities, are responsible for protecting the public's health from the risk associated with the consumption of food. Local authorities have environmental health officers, EHOs, and trading standards officers, TSOs, who enforce food safety law at a local level. Environmental health officers and trading standards officers have the power to enter food premises at any reasonable time to carry out safety inspections, investigate food poisoning outbreaks and food safety complaints, recommend improvements to food hygiene practices, offer guidance and advice to food business operators. Enforcement officers can also issue legal notices such as hygiene improvement notices, hygiene emergency prohibition notices, remedial action notices. They also have the legal authority to seize unfit or unsafe food, photograph and take samples of food for testing, recommend legal proceedings against a food business operator, manager or in some circumstances members of staff. If a business receives guidance or a note from an enforcement officer, then they are duty bound to comply. It should be noted that failure to operate with an enforcement officer can result in prosecution for obstruction of the law. Legal notices. If a business fails to meet food safety law, it can be issued with a hygiene improvement notice. The notice will make clear the reason for issuing the notice, what action must be undertaken to comply with the notice, the time allowed for the improvements to be made, a minimum of which is 14 days. A hygiene emergency prohibition order demands the immediate closure of a business. The authorized officer who issues the notice must then apply to the court within 3 days to convert the notice to a hygiene emergency prohibition order. The hygiene emergency prohibition order can only be lifted once the enforcement authority issues a certificate asserting that the food business no longer poses a public health risk. It is a criminal offense to disregard a formal notice or order. Legal notices. If you are in Northern Ireland, Scotland or Wales, a local authority inspector can also issue a remedial action notice. A remedial action notice has the power to ban the use of any equipment or any part of the business specified in the notice, place conditions on or prohibit any part of the food process taking place, call for the rate of operation to be reduced as specified in the notice or halted completely. An example would be a remedial action notice stopping a takeaway or cafe operating a delivery service until specified action was undertaken. Prosecution. Failure to adhere to food safety legislation can result in prosecution. The prosecution for offences against food safety legislation can be heard in the Crown or the Magistrate Court. Offences against food safety legislation are subject to fines and custodial sentences. Fines. In the Magistrate and Crown Court, fine amounts are unlimited. Prison sentences. In the Magistrate Court, custodial sentences are limited to 6 years. In the Crown Court, this limit is extended to 6 years. Fines are unlimited for breaches of the food safety and hygiene regulations. Custodial sentences can be issued in Wales. Business owners and the law. If you run your own business, you have additional responsibilities under the law that requires you to register your food premises with the local authority, making certain that the premises are designed, equipped and operated so as to prevent contamination of food that could lead to illness or injury, provide the necessary washing facilities and arrangements for personal hygiene, provide staff with the appropriate training and supervision, devise food safety management procedures to analyze, eliminate or minimize risk. Due diligence. There is only one main defense under food safety law. This is known as the due diligence defense. A due diligence defense means that you can prove that all reasonable care has been taken to ensure food safety. To evidence that you have taken all reasonable care, you must be able to demonstrate that you have established a system of procedures and controls to eliminate or minimize to an acceptable level any likely hazards or risks. The procedures and controls must be operated effectively for them to prove due diligence. This requires you to maintain accurate and complete records, and have full traceability of food products and packaging. Following industry guidelines on good practice will help reinforce a defense of due diligence. 7 Principles of HACCP. The 7 Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point (HACCP) principles provide a systematic way of identifying food safety hazards, making sure that they are being managed responsibly and demonstrate that such actions are being done continuously. We will explore each aspect of the following principles, but in summary, your food safety management system should conform to these 7 principles. Conduct a hazard analysis. Examine the flow of food in your business and identify all potential hazards, be it biological, chemical, or physical, and identify and implement measures for their control. Determine critical control points, CCPs. A CCP is the last controllable point of food flow where food safety hazard can be prevented or reduced to an acceptable level. Establish critical limits. Critical limits are maximum and minimum values a CCP must meet to prevent or reduce the hazard to an acceptable level, for example time or temperature. The critical limit separates an acceptable, safe, product from an unacceptable, unsafe, product. Establish a monitoring system. An effective monitoring system will highlight a food safety problem or will confirm that all CCPs are operating within critical limits. Establish corrective actions. These are actions that are taken when monitoring results are outside critical limits. The action to be taken will ensure that the CCP is under control. Establish verification procedures. This confirms that the HACCP system is working effectively and will produce safe food. Establish documentation for procedures and records. The maintenance of accurate records is essential. Diligent record keeping demonstrates that all reasonable precautions for food safety have been taken and allows you to provide the evidence to prove so. What is HACCP? To summarize, this implementation of the HACCP protocol involves the following steps. Plan. Identify what needs to be done to maintain food safety and write it down. Do. Carry out the actions required to maintain food safety that you identified in the planning stage. Check. Verify that you are doing what you plan to do to maintain food safety. Maintain a written record of what was checked, by whom and when. Act. Remedy any food safety problems you identify and update your records to reflect when and what action that was taken. Resources. The Food Standards Agency has issued the guidance pack Safer Food, Better Business for Caterers for small catering and retail business operating in England and Wales, to help them implement HACCP and comply with food safety legislation. Here is a link to their page, Safer Food, Better Business for Caterers. Scotland has a similar program called Cook Safe. Here is a link to their PDF, Cook Safe. Northern Ireland's program is entitled Safe Catering. Here is a link to their page, Safe Catering. The information provided is designed to help you draw up an effective and robust food safety management system. Summary. What have we learned? Food safety legislation is in place to protect the consumer and make sure that food is safe. Failure to adhere to food safety legislation can result in criminal prosecution, fines and imprisonment. Everyone in a business associated with or involved in food handling has a legal duty to ensure their food is safe. Every business has to operate an effective food safety management system. There is only one main defense under food safety legislation, known as a due diligence defense. The HACCP has 7 key principles that can be enacted by following the steps of plan, do, check and act.